All right, so welcome again, everyone. This bi-monthly meeting's focus is on fighting food waste together. So these are insights from Southold's drop-off program. All right. So we're going to start off with a short introduction about who we are, the Long Island Organics Council. We're going to also get into our spotlight feature with Nick Krupski, a Q&A session, some updates, member updates, and some closing remarks and next steps. So please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Anything you'd like to share about your interest in organics, and we'll try to get back to you. All right. All right, so here at LIOC, we are a three-woman team. We have here with us Madeline Infantino, which is our project coordinator, head of this program. And we have myself, I'm Francesca Greco, and I'm the director of the council. Judy was the founder of the Organics Council, but she could not be here tonight. So our mission here is we are Long Island's leading organization for sustainable food scraps diversion, connecting municipalities, communities, and institutions to develop impactful organic solutions. All right, what we've all been waiting for. So this program is a grant-funded project. So we named it Food Scrap Recycle Long Island 2, based off of our first program in 2023, which is Food Scrap Recycle number 1. That's it. But in 2024, the Long Island Organics Council received grant funding through the New York State Pollution Prevention Institute to create another municipal food scrap drop-off site on Long Island. And we then partnered with the Town of Southold and the North Fork Environmental Council. And this grant is derived from the Environmental Protection Fund as administered by the New York State DEC. And with most of our resources here, we just put up a quick disclaimer page derived from P2I. So going into Southold's drop-off program. So here on the left, we have the setup of the original program. And you can see it's a large like dumpster receptacle and some signage in English and Spanish. And then there on the right, we have our more recent bin system because it's made it easier for participants to just get in and, start putting their scraps in. It's less heavy than a metal dumpster. But we also want to get into the exact logistics of this type of program. So like I just mentioned, location and type of food scraps receptacle that you choose, signage, registration, and educational materials, drop-off site staffing, and processing the food scraps into compost. So all of this goes into setting up just the beginning of the program. But today we have our speaker, Nick Krupski. So he is the solid waste coordinator for the Town of Southold and a fifth-generation farmer. And Nick is also a father of 3. And his impact has really made this program run so smoothly due to his background in geology, environmental science, and biology. So without further ado, thank you so much, Nick, for joining us tonight, and let's go ahead.
All right, thank you for that introduction, and pleasure to meet all of you. Although I see a lot of familiar faces, and I know that there's some composting experts here. I'll run through a little bit about the facility, and then just a little bit about our compost operation, and then I guess at the end is a Q&A if anybody has any questions. If you want to switch to the next slide. So for those of you who aren't familiar with our operation, the picture on the left is the transfer station. We're open 7 days a week except for major holidays. We open at 7 a.m., close at 5. try to be available for the public for a variety of resources, both residential and commercial, 340 days a year. The picture in the middle is our recently installed radiation scanners. Without getting too deep into that today, we're having some radiation issues, mostly with home sanitary products for people going through treatments. We're not able to send the radiation out, so that's something that we were working with the state on and maintaining that on site. Fortunately, we don't have radiation to any compost, but it's something to keep an eye on. The picture all the way to the right is one of our consultants sampling one of the wells at our compost site. 2 years ago, New York State passed legislation that all compost facilities at a certain size had to have test wells. So I installed these shortly after starting here a little over a year and a half ago. There's 3 of them surrounding my site, so I'm catching up gradient and down gradient, making sure that we're not putting a plume out there. There's been some, I'll say, excitement in the news lately with some composting facilities that weren't doing the right thing. So we're going above and beyond to try to do the right thing. And I also just want to note that all our numbers look great. Our compost site is not adding anything to the water table. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is just a little bit about our operation, some of the equipment that we use. On the left, that's the final product there. So that's the end of the line for the compost before it's available to the commercial growers and residents alike. So that's our trommel screener, which is essentially a very large drum, and we can change the size via the barrel to change the product that we're putting out, depending on what we want in it and what we want it to look like. So this is actually feeding in 2 years ago's leaves and manure that had broken down, and on the left is the good compost just starting to come out, and then we'll push it up into the pile and make it available for the residents. On the right is our newly purchased horizontal grinder. So typically, mostly just used for wood mulch. However, I put demo screens in it, and we run our leaves through as soon as they come in fresh and dry, and that actually helps advance the breakdown process. So what could take 8 months, I could reduce by a couple months just by running them through that. And we only run it through once, and we only run it through clean and dry, because otherwise it really wears and tears on the machine like sandpaper. So we're loading leaves with the payloader there, but we also use our excavator on site to try to help speed things up. Okay, next slide. So you can switch to the next.
You see the compost processing?
Yep, we got it now. Maybe I had a little delay. So on the left, that's what comes in. We have mostly raw leaves that come in with this. You can see there's a little bit of grasses there and then some bagged leaves. But mostly raw leaves that we mix with. First, we send it through that horizontal grinder that you saw. And then we mix it shortly thereafter with manure, brewery waste, which unfortunately I lost because the local brewery here outsourced their production. But the positive thing is, as that was going out, the food waste was starting. So we started mixing in the food waste. So what you see on the right is a huge windrow of shredded leaves mixed with some manure, a little bit of food waste, and probably the tail end of the brewery waste at the time that I took this picture. This is more for storage. This is not how I want to process my compost, but it's one of the stages in getting there. So Francesca, if you want to go to the next slide. Okay, so this is a picture of the windrows, and there's a subsequent picture that I'll show like the longer transition of them. But I like this because it shows they were put down at slightly different times, and it shows a little bit of difference in breakdown. So on the left is a picture of our windrow turner not in use. And if you see the closest pile, or what we call windrow, to us is the newest one and the least broken down. We start from the east side, work our way west just for organization. There's no rhyme or reason to which side we start on. and then we go through with the windrow turner. So if you look on the right, as soon as we get a nice rain, or if we're able to irrigate the piles, we want to turn that moisture in and sort of help with the breakdown. So I'm fortunate enough here to have a windrow turner to go through and speed up this process, and that really helps make a desirable product. It also keeps our yard nice and clean. Otherwise, we'd be turning in large windrows with machines like payloaders, excavators. That's really time consuming, really challenging, and you're not getting the same mixing that you would get with the windrow turner. Okay, if you want to go to the next slide. So the next slide is a good overview. The picture on the left is some I think there's 3 windrows there. Those are the last 3 from the year prior. They were getting, at this point in time, they were getting really, really close to being ready, but they weren't quite there. Behind that, you see that large windrow, which is, again, for storage. If you didn't have a windrow turner, you could lay it out in larger windrows and turn with a payloader. There's no problem in doing that. Windrow turner is a little pricey. And obviously, it's another thing to break and to fix. It just makes such, as you can see, the 3 rows in front versus the 1 in the back, it's just a much cleaner, organized product. And again, it does break down a lot quicker. And then if you look to the right, that's some finished product there that I'm holding. That compost is ready to go. When I get to that point, I also send out to a lab for sampling to just see how water retention, what kind of minerals are in it, how finished it is, quote unquote, and if there's any contamination in it, which we haven't had a problem with, because we're really just taking in natural products. Okay, so that's our final project, and then it's ready for the residents, for whether it be homeowners who have raised beds or just want to put it around their property. Some people even add it to their lawns to try to raise the organics a little bit. And we also have a lot of tree farmers and commercial growers that come in and purchase that material. Okay, next slide. So just touching a little bit on the Long Island dilemma, and this is just a real brief understanding. So some of you will recognize this picture, but it's the incineration plant, Reworld, that we send our waste to from Southold. I will say that in Southold, we're at least fortunate enough to be able to send to the incinerator. All the other East End towns are sending off the island. So there's different schools of thought about incineration. Obviously, it's not perfect, and reduction through what we're trying to do here with Long Island Organics Council and Long Island Organics Initiative is much better. However, at the very least, we're generating some electricity out of it. They're also able to harvest all the metal that makes its way into that. So there is some recycling product that comes out of that. The picture below, and just for everyone's reference, that claw, it's basically like a giant claw machine there. That is 1 garbage truck's worth of garbage. So a normal packer that you see out on the road, that's what that is. So they pick it up there, they fluff it, they turn it over, and then they put it in the burner. But what we're trying to do is to avoid sending it there. So the picture on the bottom is actually one of our garbage trucks hooked up to a trailer of garbage. That's a staging area for our MSW. We load out of the building, we stage it down there for the transporter to come and get it. And I just thought it was important to reference that the town of Southold last year shipped 9,500 tons of MSW and 4,900 tons of C&D. So there's a lot we can do to pull out of those numbers and reduce that, which will ultimately save us. Obviously, it's better than burning it. It's much better than shipping it off the island. There's also the waste to energy contracts, which are awaiting their renewal with Long Island Power. There's a lot going on with the waste to energy, and I don't know how deep we want to get into that tonight. Certainly, if anyone has questions, if I have the answers, I'd be happy to answer. And I think plenty of people in this group sort of have a good idea what's going on. But for anyone who doesn't, if the power contract doesn't go through, there's no incentive. It's too expensive to run the plant, so the incinerators would fail. Also, if the state forces closure due to emission standards, we would lose that as well. So again, not everyone loves incineration. certainly reduction is better, but it's better than shipping everything off through the city. So again, through initiatives like food waste and reuse facilities, hopefully we can knock down those numbers even more. And Southold actually does a pretty nice job in recycling through our yellow bag pay as you throw program, which again people don't like, but I can justify that program pretty strongly, and it definitely greatly incentivizes recycling. And also all of our yard waste is recycled, so there's no waste there. And we have a lot of other products that we send out for recycling, so that we partner with other groups and have contracts with other private entities to handle that.
All right. Thank you so much, Nick. Okay. And this next slide, I'm going to have Madeline take over here.
Okay. About the communications, it's been a huge part of this project. We weren't really anticipating just how much. We didn't realize that 100 people would sign up within days. So this program was definitely in demand. It led to, we do the continual outreach and education programs. We're still doing them. We still have a couple more we'd like to do. And through that, we find that they're very successful. People ask a lot of questions. And in the meantime, we do get emails. We're constantly answering emails, and almost every day, someone's signing up for that wait list, sometimes a few in a day. And from that wait list, we have been able to take new people on, and they have attended outreaches and they can go forward. And we're confident that they know how to not contaminate the bins and what to do. And we love to go through what Nick and Francesca just spoke about in, a little bit more briefly, but so that they understand why they're doing it. But as far as Southold is concerned, it's a pretty good group. They're pretty well aware of why they're composting, but they're definitely wanted this program to go forward.
All right.
Outreach, yes.
Just checking.
Sorry, did you want me to go over this one too?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, outreach. We did 3 of our outreaches virtually, and we found out we got a lot of people coming to those. I guess it's easier for a lot of people. This one happens to be one in April out in Manitouk. People were kind of scattered around the room as though it were still a pandemic. Nobody wants to sit together, but it was really, we got a nice turnout there. And we get a lot of really good questions. It could go on and on with the questions, but they really do love hearing about Southold's operations. And we do have good discussions about what can go in the bins, what can't. And the Long Island dilemma comes up quite a bit. And a lot of people really, it is an eye opener for some of them. And we recently did, we're planning this weekend, we're doing an outreach combined with a compost give back. We've learned from studying other programs that give backs incentivize good compliance so that people don't put plastics or other contaminants in the compost in the food scrap bins, because they're going to come and get that and maybe grow some food in it themselves. So we found that we learned that, and we're doing that as well.
And thank you so much, Madeline, for literally all your work coordinating, communicating all this outreach. You are truly a lifeline of this program, and we couldn't have done it without you.
Oh, well, thank you. I love it.
All
It's a
right.
passion.
Absolutely. All right, so now to get into the good stuff too, some project outcomes. So it's been about 9 months or so since we opened up the program up to participants, but just to touch on some overall diversion. So as of yesterday, we had 5 tons of food scraps diverted. That is equivalent to 1 metric ton of greenhouse gases avoided. So that's huge. And, I don't know if, all participants were participating at the same time. Some people, they move away for the summer, they go, back and forth to different houses and fun things like that. But, or they go into different programs like the Deep Roots program. But, when we're able to have retention, it really makes a difference, and have that active outreach. I found that allowed people to really stay engaged in the program. Otherwise, household waste, we found that there was a 52% decrease in overall household food waste. And that's a result of a Q3 survey. That's really impactful, thinking about people just reflecting on their own journey with food, their own consumption. And, this is a small handful of participants, but, just thinking of opening up to people that aren't familiar with the importance of food scrap diversion, it changes a lot for them because that's a lot less food that you're wasting. That's a lot less money you're wasting. And, you're able to better gauge your input and your personal consumption. And that leads me into our third outcome, which is a 13% decrease in food purchased. And that's an average from Q2 and Q3 survey this year. So, that's huge in of itself. An average household is about 2.5 people. And so if you think of that, that's, a lot you're saving per grocery chip. So yeah. And next, getting into compliance. So we were able to improve program compliance by 50% from Q2 to Q3, thanks to our outreach and system improvements like the bins that we replaced. That made it easier for participants to open the bins and put their food scraps in, and also just engaging more people and asking them to participate in these outreach events and to get that education in there. Other results, there's a lot of social impacts. There's a lot of people, being part of a program like this allows you to be more connected to your community and more engaged with what's actually going on. So a lot of our participants ranged a 75% increase in their knowledge of local food waste systems and how food waste goes through the waste stream locally. So that's a huge difference to me. I mean, if I were just, a person who was first getting into this journey, that would completely amaze me how, a lot of our food is going into incineration or being trucked off. And this is a great way to divert that. So, yeah. Now just getting into some broader impacts. So the Southold Food Scrap Long Island program shows how education, infrastructure, and engagement can effectively reduce food waste purchasing and waste. It can boost community satisfaction and commitment, and it can scale a local model for pollution prevention and circular economy benefits. So, this is excellent, maybe even the long term. I know the town of Southold does allow people to purchase their compost, and the first 500 pounds of compost is free for residents. So this is going to be really exciting to be able to give back at our compost give back program this weekend, to allow participants to say, oh, I got first dibs. And also I've been contributing to this. My household has been helping create this program and make it successful. So now to just dive into some of the challenges of this type of program. So initially, finding a location and town willing to staff and manage the site, that was challenging because, I am located in Huntington, Madeline's town of Babylon. We are thinking, okay, let's try to find programs, not just in our own communities, because I know there's a lot of great, community gardens and things like that, but just on the town level, it's hard to find people willing to dedicate the staff. So we were really lucky to find Southold at this time and to be able to, commit to a real project trajectory together. And next, sorting contamination with limited staff. We had to really harp on our participants, not in a negative way, but just, make regular reminders that, we don't have people who are going to be, individually sorting. I know, I think it was the East Hampton compost. They have, farmers markets where they screen through individually, and that's amazing, but we just didn't have the ability to do that. So if you're in a smaller scale program, you may be able to do that, but with this type of oversight, it was really important to communicate well, to review what was going in and out of the bins on a daily or weekly basis, and just really touch base with people and touch base with Nick to see how things were going on his end. Another challenge was learning how to adjust to delays in our timeline. So, just thinking of things like, okay, we started the program in the winter, it's just how we wanted to jump in. It gets a little delayed sometimes, with getting uh, partnerships going through, and then when you're going to go through with other vendors. So having that insight of, okay, it's okay if everything doesn't always go to plan at first. Start small with these types of programs, go day by day, communicate well, be kind, and I think that will help you get far. So now some keys to success. Like I said, you got to plan and partner well. Nick's insights and overall his input into this program is invaluable. It's amazing how much we were able to get done together, how quickly we were able to communicate, problem solve. And thanks to Judy too, our website people, their work on this, they're behind the scenes, but their work made this that much better. We had better graphics, better educational materials thanks to them, and to me and Madeline for our communications efforts. It was all a team effort there. So another point is, like I said, you have to start small if you want to create this type of program for yourself, because each site is going to have its own needs, own logistics. Finding Southold's lucky because they have a composting operation. They have the staff already dedicated to that. So this is kind of like an add-on with its own logistics, as I mentioned before. But for towns, maybe like the town of Huntington, it might be a little more challenging to get to that level because they don't have as much green spaces or a larger internal town operation. So start small. Community composting, garden composting, backyard composting, they're all really important parts. And, I find that a town-wide program like this is just uniting more people doing the same thing. And it's getting those people with the same interests all involved. So I love that sense of community and fostering those relationships. My next point is it's really important to prioritize education and outreach early on. Honestly, if I were to redo it, I would probably do one or two outreach sessions to a wider audience at the beginning of the program before we launch. That way we'd have that, basis to work off on. But you live and you learn, and timelines aren't always perfect, like I mentioned. But that is a real key to success because you need people to understand why they can't put plastic in, why they can't put, large pieces of meat or cheese into a compost pile. Because that really makes the difference into whether, you have proper aeration and the proper bacteria in the compost. So that's just one part. But honestly, the outreach and education is ongoing. It's not just at the beginning. It's not just in the first 6 months. It's ongoing because especially if you open it to a larger audience, to the public, you're going to find that there's going to be people who forget, or people who are just getting acquainted to this type of process and they don't always remember. So that's just I would highlight that one, star it, education and outreach. My next point is, you should ensure clear expectations from project start to finish. Just have a really good understanding of your scope of work, of, your methods of communication, how often you want to reach out to participants, because that communication is going to be a large time sink for you. If it's being run from a municipal level, you have to have a dedicated staff member, or with people like us at the Long Island Organics Council, where we've handled all the communications for this program. So that's just one example, but you really have to put a lot of thought and care into this, but also be willing to brainstorm and communicate, work off of other models. That's how we were able to get to this point with the two municipal programs, is because we learned from people upstate that we just did the same thing. So keep doing what works. All right. Thank you so much. I hope that was insightful, and I'd love to jump into a Q&A session.
We have a couple of questions from the chat.
Great.
We can start there or wherever you want to start.
Yeah, go ahead.
Laura Russo is here. She is interested in starting a program in her town, and she's asking about how many tons per week of greens and browns do you compost? I'm not sure if she's talking just yard waste or with food in terms of greens in terms of food waste. And maybe you can chime in, Laura. The greens and browns.
Yeah. I guess I was just thinking greens would be food scraps and
Okay,
browns would be leaves. Thank
gotcha.
you.
So I can jump in on that. So for this program so far, we've taken in just over 5 tons of food waste, which is a great start. Definitely would like to expand on that. We have as you saw from those photos here, we have about a 10-acre composting facility. It's a little bit smaller than that, and I could desperately use another 5 acres for what I bring in with the town. But I believe I sent the number. We were talking about this yesterday, but I sold about 5,000 tons of compost, which last year, which is mostly leaves and manure and some of that brewery waste. So which is a pretty nice number. That doesn't account for any of the brush or the brush that we convert into mulch, and then it doesn't also account for some of the topsoil, which I make topsoil out of screened tested fill and the compost. So that number doesn't account for everything, but that's roughly how much compost we moved last year.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. It looks so big and impressive. I was thinking that it was a lot more food scraps possibly.
Well, we only just started that with this program, so I hope to increase that number as time goes on.
All right, great.
I saw there's some questions in the chat here from Karen. Do you want me to answer those?
Yeah, sure. Please do.
The pay as you
Um,
throw.
Madeline, do you want to read it aloud?
Sure. Could you explain the pay as you throw yellow bag, how it works? Is it for municipal solid waste only, or is it also for recycling products? And can you talk about some have tried to introduce it, but there's a lot of pushback from probably the government, from the towns, I would imagine. And there's still too much pushback, and so far it's only Southold, she says, and Southampton that are doing this pay as you throw.
So we've been doing pay as you throw here for 3 decades. When we closed the landfill, DC wanted to see a program adopted to handle the waste and incentivize recycling. So we went with pay as you throw we have yellow bags. I think Southampton has green bags, and also Shelter Island has a pay as you throw, although there is rumors that they're talking about going a different direction. There's 2 schools of thought. Also, politically, people get a little heated about the topic, which is why it's hard to introduce a new one. And I find myself defending our program regularly. Mm-hmm. So I'll briefly run through the idea behind the program and then just some thoughts I have and some questions I've gotten. The idea is that you're literally paying for what you're disposing of. We have 3 different size bags. The smallest is roughly the size of a kitchen container, so you could put it right in your kitchen garbage. Medium fits, and again, you can get creative fitting things in there, but medium fits about 3 of those kitchen containers, and the large, I don't even know. I mean, you could fill the thing. I don't know how people would pick it up and drop it over the wall. It's so large. So for the first time in 30 years, we increased our prices. The small bag is $1 a piece. The medium bag is $2 a piece, and the large bag is $3 a piece. So again, if you're someone who's really conscious about what you're disposing of, I have many residents who come once every 2 weeks with a small bag. So you're looking at 50 cents a year to dispose of your household waste. I myself, I have one child left in diapers, but also I feel like we just break a lot of things too around my house. So I'm currently doing a medium bag. So at worst case scenario, I'm a medium bag, which is $2 a week. Usually it's a week and a half max. So it's not an expensive way to dispose of your waste. We have a direct calculation of how much the bags cost, and then how much we pay to dispose of those bags at the incineration plant, which is we have the IMA with Babylon Town. So it's not a money making thing. It's simply a user fee. And that's really the important component there, because it's a user fee. So people have to think about what they're throwing out. That's the idea. And the school of thought I've heard is that there's, the rule of thirds. So there's people who recycle because they really care. There's people who recycle because it affects them financially. And then there's people who just don't care at all. And they're not going to recycle. And it doesn't really, the nickels and dimes don't really bother them. So what we believe we're capturing with the pay as you throw is that extra third. And we see pretty good recycling numbers here. So it only applies to MSW. All the recycling products, we have 3-stream recycling here. So we have clean and dry paper and cardboard. We have glass, and we have plastic and metal mixed together. So it's an incentive not to put those cans in there, to just rinse them out quick and put them in a plastic recycled container and bring that down, or maybe put it in a cardboard box and bring that down. So it's definitely a little extra work for people, but it does save you money overall. Politically speaking, some would argue that if you, especially like I'm in a bit of a tourist town here, right? So if we did not do pay as you throw, you would raise taxes, which no one wants to see either. But then the fees would be spread out over the whole town. But again, you're still losing your incentivization there to recycle for the people who might need that little extra incentive. So it's twofold. It's holding people accountable. It's putting in people's minds like, hey, I need to remove my recycling. I don't want to fill this. And then the last comment I get on this all the time is, we don't need more plastic. Everybody's, against plastic. And that's true. We don't need more plastic. But if you are a very conscientious person who's disposing of your waste, like I said, you're talking about, you don't need an extra bag then. Put the yellow bag directly in your garbage can and bring it down once every 2 weeks. And you're not adding any plastic to the system. And also, for now, Southold waste is not going to a landfill. It's going to an incineration plant. But regardless, it's not extra plastic if you do it right. If you're filling a huge bag, and listen, if you have a big party and you're filling a large bag, yeah, there's going to be some extra plastic there. But it's still like at that party, hey, maybe we should have recycling containers. And I mean, I know I'm the person at the mostly family parties, so people don't think I'm totally crazy, but I'm the person that puts out a bowl for food scraps and I'm like, hey, don't, all the little kids are around, like, throw their pizza in there, please. I want that. So it makes people really think about it and make the right choice, and helps them make the right choice.
Thank you so much, Nick. Yeah, that was really insightful. And even the little tidbit about, you at your own parties at home, that's great. I seek to do the same thing myself, even living in an apartment. I feel like these types of programs are great because you can just store your food scraps and bring it to in the freezer or something like that. Or, it's not even that intrusive on your daily life. It's just about your method of doing that and if you have the available program near you. So thank you again.
And I do it at other people's houses too.
Oh, yeah.
Not all the time, but I do.
It's gotta be cool like that with them.
That's great.
You're like, I'm not taking snacks. It's just all your food scraps. Great. All right. Let's see if I can get another few questions here. Claire, you raising your hand. Go ahead. You're muted. Sorry.
Hello. So Nick, I was just wondering, is the food recycling, is it all food or is it just, vegetables and fruits and no proteins.
So for now, just to avoid the vermin issue and the odor issue, we're not doing proteins. That's something I'd be willing to expand on in the future, but I sort of want to get this tweaked and right first.
Right. And are people doing that? Are people pretty good at not including proteins? Are you finding?
For the most part, we had one funny instance where somebody dumped like 2 or 3 huge striped bass carcasses in there. Um, but and it's really important. I think the messaging to people doing the program is we cannot take these things. The reality is if someone throws 2 fish in there once in a blue moon, that's fine. I can handle any of that. Like we did take from Mary, we took the lobsters from a lobster bake fundraiser, and that's no problem. At this time, we just can't fill the whole place up with like steak bones because we won't get our desired product.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your question, Claire.
Mm-hmm.
I see another question below. Do you accept dairy or pizza as food scraps? So, if it's a small amount of dairy, like, crumbles in a salad or just like a little scrap of it, that's fine. But we generally discourage large amounts of dairy because of the oils and the fats in that. At the beginning of a program like this, it's not as effective and like in the large scale processing. Um, and it is attracting vermin in some cases. So just to start as a pilot, we're looking to not do that. But things like pizza, there's not a lot of cheese on that. There's not that much fat either. So that's fine. Pizza crusts or whatever. But yeah, we have I didn't include it in this presentation, but in our outreach, we have a detailed sign. Oh, we have a detailed sign that shows what's accepted and what's not, and it's very visible. No plastics, uh, no cheese, fat, dairy, whatever, and no compostable bags either, because we found that those were not breaking down effectively. Once you tied a knot in them, the knot would still remain in some cases. So we encourage people to bring reusable containers with them, like a 5-gallon composting like countertop bin, and bring that, or any other reusable bucket that you could use. So, but yeah, go ahead, Claire.
Yeah, no, so just to clarify, because I did go visit Southold and I saw the toters there, there were a few toters there for the collecting the food, which I guess that's where it's getting collected.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not having them line with the bags. It's like they are just dumping the food right into the toters.
Correct.
Wow. No, I think that's the way to go, but having gone to Scarsdale like 3 times,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's saying like, "Oh, make it easy for people," and it's not messy and all that stuff. And I just sort of cringe. I'm like, it's just not that hard, to do, just to put it straight into the toters, but I guess people are doing it.
The biggest problem, I mean, it does get
Messy.
a little nasty in August. We rigged up for now a system with the toters where I can flip them up with a bucket of the payloader and dump it right into the bucket. So that helps a lot because they do get heavy. And those toters are set up for like a garbage truck, like a packer truck. So I don't have any hook that can clamp onto those and throw it up into something. So we rigged something up that works with our hydraulic bucket to raise it up, and it's working pretty well. And the reality is they need to be hosed out once in a while, and we try to stick clean leaves in there as much as possible.
I would add to that Riverhead used the bin liners, not for the individuals, households that they lined their bins initially and they stopped doing it. They would shred, fall apart as they were being transported to the pile. It was a disaster. So they just stopped. All the food scraps straight into the collection bins.
It's a
And for
learning
people at
curve.
home, Yeah, and for people at home, I think Nick, you said a small brown paper bag. If you really don't want to just keep rinsing out your pail or your bucket, a paper bag would be okay, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Just because, it takes the ickiness out of it, but it's still gonna break down in our pile, and a little bit of paper is completely fine in our system. But yeah, that's a great question. So I'll give Nick a second, but Deborah asked about um, can you please elaborate on the issue of radioactive materials from discarded medical devices?
Sure. Yeah, and sorry about that. My alarm here went off.
Mm.
I had to just check in and let them know that there was no one breaking and entering. Um, so what we were finding for the most part, because we send out those garbage trailers to the incinerator, um, we did not have a radiation scanner here at the time. They get scanned. The trailers get scanned there because legally they're not allowed to burn anything with any dose on it. So we got our own scanners. We actually also have a hand scanner. We were able to break down a few loads and find out what was in the bags, and it was people going through like home like treatments, like cancer treatments, and then going home and using any like sanitary materials or diapers. There was also actually people treating their pets and kitty litter that was setting it off. So we sort of ran a informational campaign around town and said, please, if you're gonna be using that stuff, or if you're going through treatment, while I empathize but we're not really set up to handle that. So the safest thing to do for both yourself and the town and the employees and everyone is just to store it at home for 2 weeks outside. So if you set up a couple garbage cans, just monitor what you're putting in there and how long it's going in for, and then we can take it after 2 weeks. And with a low reading, it's not a problem. It's just when it comes in fresh that it tends to be an issue for us.
Did the hospitals like in the area also relay this type of information for disposing of that waste?
I don't think so. I did reach out to a few hospitals and offices and try to educate people, because I don't think that's something that's been discussed, and I don't know how long the incinerator has been measuring. I also don't know for other towns, when it's shipped off to other states and landfilled. I don't know if it's measured there, depending on where it's going. So this might be something that's not largely captured everywhere. But now we have the scanner, so we can kind of get ahead of it and stay ahead of it.
That's
Nick, once you did mention that if they, forgive me if you did this again, but briefly, how long does a household person need to leave it sitting outside before it's safe to take it to the transfer station?
It all depends on what the isotope is, but a good safe number is 2 weeks.
Okay.
So if the best thing to do would be something that's sort of open air, but you obviously don't want it to get rained on. But if you have something that's somewhat like a trash can, and if it's going to rain, you close it. Or if you have an overhang, even a garage would be better than than nothing. But it is important. You want to take that stuff out of your house too, and you don't, because it's not. You're going through the treatment, say, but you don't want your family to be impacted by the radiation either. So that is a concern.
Wow.
You never think of these things, unless
I
you're
don't think
involved.
I haven't heard of this talked about. I think Nick,
Yeah.
you're really ahead of the game here.
Yeah, it's very insightful. I'm glad that you guys took a step up for that, and with education and reaching out to people. But yeah, do we have any other questions specifically targeted towards the program?
Suzanne, who is a participant, asks, what happens after the pilot period is over?
Yeah, so that depends, town per town. With Riverhead, we were just contracted for a 1 year program. So that's four quarters, including, finding a site together and all that organization, the outreach, and the launch of the program. But for a program like this, it's going to keep on going. So, we're going to see if there's different methods we can use to, push forward streamlined education, a knowledge check for new participants if we're going to expand it. But it depends town for town, I would say. So you need to really think if you have it under a grant scope, that would be between you and whoever you're running the program with. And I think I saw, a question from Deborah about tree farmers and landscapers are buying the compost. Is this growing?
I hope so. I mean, I'd like to do a little bit more to advertise it. Last year, I moved a ton of compost. I'm a little, my number's a little lower this year. I have a decent amount on site ready to go, but I have a tremendous amount of leaves and windrows right now. So it's a really nice product. We put a lot of sweat and blood into it. So I don't, we give it away for the residents. I don't really want to give it away beyond that because it's also important for us to make revenue for our bottom line here so that we can keep all these programs going. So I hope it's going to continue to grow. I would love one more big company to come in and purchase from me. That's something that I'm kind of on the look for. But I do have some of the big names out east here that come in pretty regularly.
Nick, just curious, do you ever sell to construction companies? I know they use compost for water retention on roadside and highway construction projects to stem off water runoff while they're working in the soil. Has that ever come up?
I don't know, but we do have a tremendous amount of contractors that purchase, not large amounts. My biggest my big few are more like large landscape companies, tree farm companies between here and the South Fork. But it's very, very possible because there's so many commercial entities that do purchase from us. I'm just not sure where it all goes, to be honest with you.
Right.
All right. I think that's great for now. I think we're going to jump back in. Thank you again for all your wonderful questions. Oh, one last thing from Deborah. I'll let this one. A question for Madeline. You said there's a waiting list of 100 households. So,
Oh, it was let me clarify. It was 100 household pilot initially. There was a limit initially. It quickly we created the waiting list so that people who missed that, it filled up so quickly. From that wait list, it's more than 100 at this point, I believe, but we have taken about, I would say 50 people from that waiting list and added them into the program. They've completed outreach and education, and they know what to do, and they're part of the program now. So down the road, we have them, we know who they are, we can reach out when we're ready to go forward. But yeah, hopefully someday maybe there won't be a wait list. You can just open it wide open, but we have been adding.
all right. Thank you again for your questions, everyone. So we're going to jump into just some LIOC updates. So just to begin, we are continuing our speaker series. So if you know someone who wants to do a bi-monthly event, you could share your expertise on all things organic, sustainability, and we're looking for creative thinkers, advocates, and beyond to share their passion. And you can fill out this Google form. There's a QR code here, or you can email us at liorganicscouncil@gmail.com with any questions. All right. So there's also a backyard composting program. So if you live in the town of Southold and want to start composting at home, you can join the Town of Southold for a compost bin and rain barrel sale. Then the deadline is September 26th, and the pickup at the transfer station is in Cutchogue, September 27th, 9 o'clock to 12 noon. And there are also how-to instructions posted on the town website. Next, there is a backyard composting launch in the town of East Hampton. and the Town of Babylon. So for East Hampton, the order deadline is September 25th. You can pick up at the East Hampton Town Hall, and it's September 27th from 2 to 5 p.m. Now for Town of Babylon, the order deadline is October 23rd, and you can pick up at Carl's River Botanical Garden in Deer Park, October 24th, 4 to 7 p.m. And these how-to instructions are posted on these town websites. So you can just search the town name, composter sale to order, instructional videos, and information to come. All right, so that's just another great way to turn your kitchen scraps into rich soil at home.
I put those in the chat also.
Thank you so much.
I'm adding Babylon right now.
And also some grant opportunities. So ReFed, in partnership with the NRDC, developed a database of federal funding opportunities that supports food waste reduction and organics recycling initiatives. So this database includes basic information about grants, eligible applicants, application due dates, funding amounts, and links to more information. You can find the database using the QR code up on the right. Also, I recently discovered ReFed's Insights engine, and it's an excellent base for those of you seeking and providing food waste solutions. So it includes up-to-date food waste metrics, a solution database, solution provider directory, and more. So I definitely recommend checking that out. I don't have a link here, but if you just look up ReFed and Insights engine, I definitely recommend going through this site. Also, the Center for Ecotechnology offers grant opportunities for New York State businesses to reduce food waste, and you can find out more at the link on the right. Give anyone a second to screenshot if they need. If not, we'll be posting this up on YouTube in the coming days, so you can always find it there. All right. Any other member updates to share? If not, thank you so much. It was a pleasure presenting to you all. And our next meeting should be in November 2025. So it's to be announced. We're looking for our next speaker, but thank you again for joining us and for your time on a Wednesday evening.
Thank you so much, everyone. You're here because you care.
And
Have a
thank
good
you
night,
to-
everyone.
Yeah, have a good night, and thank you to Francesca and Madeline for putting this
Yeah.
together.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Right,
for
it's
great
good
questions.
seeing you.
Claire. Good seeing you too. Good
You as
seeing you
well.
again, Ambika. Thank you. We're so
Thank
honored
you for the
you're here.
invite. Yep.
It's an honor.
Thanks again.
This is the hardcore group.
Yeah.
The hardcore group.
Absolutely. All
Have a
right.
great night. Bye.
Take care.
You too.